You're 16, on your back under the bathroom vanity, your dad's red rigid pipe wrench in one hand and a roll of 98-cent plumber's tape from Home Depot in the other. 40 years later, you sign a folio that sells your mechanical contracting company to a public acquirer for $360 million. Between those two moments sits a 400,000-person trade, a 5-year apprenticeship, and a workforce shortage so deep that contractors need 349,000 new workers in 2026 alone. The shutoff valve drips. The wrench fits. This is every level of a pipe fitter in America and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The leaking shutoff valve. You're 16. The valve under the bathroom sink has been weeping since Tuesday and your mom asked your dad twice. You're under the vanity because your dad asked, and because the alternative was mowing the lawn. The wrench is a rigid 14-inch, model 31020, red handle, $33.97 at Home Depot. The tape is Harvey PTFE, 98 cents a roll. Your dad shows you once how to wrap the threads clockwise so the tape doesn't unspool when the nut bites. You wrap it counterclockwise the first time. The joint weeps. He doesn't say anything. He just turns the tape around in your hand and watches you do it again. The second time it holds. You stop flinching at the wrench. By 17, you've sweated your first copper joint on the basement utility line. The Bernzomatic torch is $69.98. The Odie Safe Flow solder is $54.90 a pound. You smell the flux before you light the torch. Sweet, metallic, faintly burnt. You heat the fitting, not the rod. The silver bead chases the flame around the joint and pulls itself into the seam by capillary action. That's the word for it, and you remember it because your dad says it twice. The joint cools. You wipe it with a rag. It doesn't drip. The neighbor's kid couldn't get his shutoff valve closed last Saturday, and his dad paid a Roto-Rooter van $450 to come out and replace it. You did the same job for the cost of a SharkBite coupling from the Home Depot end cap, $8.67. The price tag is still in your wallet, folded. You start saying yes when your dad asks. By 18, the neighbors are asking too. You don't have a card, you don't have a license, and you don't have insurance, but you have a wrench that fits and a torch that lights on the first strike. You stop calling it your dad's wrench. Level 2. The helper. You're 18, and the foreman on a downtown hospital mechanical job has handed you a push broom and a 5-gallon bucket. You sweep the deck. You hold the ground clamp. You run to the truck for fittings the journeyman forgot. The check clears Friday at $21 an hour with another $15 in fringe, and you stare at the stub in the parking lot for a full minute before you fold it. By month 2, you're threading half-inch black iron on a rigid 300 in the basement of a Loudoun County data center build. The dies bite, the cutting oil drips off the chuck, and the smell is sour and sweet at once. The smell that follows you home in your hair. You miter the pipe, you ream the burr, you hand the nipple up to the fitter on the ladder, and he threads it into the T without looking. He grunts. That grunt means it's straight. A guy named Akini Celestine, an apprentice out of UA Local 1 in New York, who came in through the Veterans in Piping program, told an alumni luncheon that he left his old non-union job because his paychecks were short and didn't reflect the hours he worked. The union check matches the time card. Every Friday, you stop checking the math. In the gang box, you find a soapstone pencil, a tape, a pair of channel locks, and a Sharpie with your name on it in block letters. Mike, in someone else's handwriting, because the foreman wrote it the first morning. By week 6, the foreman knows your name without reading it. He sends you to the layout instead of the broom. You wreck a length of 2 inch by reaming it crooked, and the journeyman makes you cut a new one on your lunch. And you do, and you don't argue, and the second one is square. You eat the sandwich in the truck after. The foreman doesn't say anything about the bad cut. The next morning, he hands you the threader before he hands it to anyone else. That's the only sentence you needed. Level 3. The apprentice. You're 19. You take the math test. You pass the hair follicle screen. You sit the panel interview at UA Local 597 in Mokina, Illinois, and the dispatcher hands you a card with your name and a 5-year clock on it. First-year scale, $23.40 an hour base. Fifth-year scale, $58.50 an hour base. You will spend the next 5 years on roughly 10,000 hours of on-the-job training and 1,700 classroom hours at the 200,000 square foot local 597 campus. And a Department of Labor study says completing the program is worth $300,000 in lifetime earnings over the guys who don't. You don't think about the study. You think about Tuesday night welding lab. The first coupon is 6-inch, Schedule 80, beveled at 37.5 degrees, tacked in 4 places on the high-low. You strike a 610 cellulosic root at 72 amps, 3/32 rod, drag technique. The arc is loud, the smoke is sweet and burnt, the puddle keyholes if you slow down and undercuts if you push. You blow the root the first time. The instructor walks over, looks at the inside of the coupon with a mirror on a stick, doesn't speak, and grinds it out for you with a 4.5-inch grinder you wish you'd reached for first. You run it again. He nods once and walks away. On the welding forum, an apprentice posts the same setup. I run my root on 72 and the 7018 on 77 to 80. SCH80 is what my test is on. You read it twice. You run yours on 72. Hot pass, fill, cap, at 110 to 125 amps with the low hydrogen rod. The cap rolls flat. The instructor signs the coupon and stamps your hours. You're at hour 412 of 10,000. By third year, you compress Viega ProPress copper with a Milwaukee, expand upon her pecs with the ProPex ring, fuse polyethylene on a McElroy out behind the school, and read an isometric off an iPad in Bluebeam without asking what a continuation arrow is. The codes go on the shelf in your truck. ASMEB 31.3, the 2024 edition for process piping. AWSD 1.1, the 2025 edition for structural welds. API 1104 for the pipeline track. ASME Section 9X for the procedure itself. You stop reading the answers in the back. Then it's quiet again. Fourth year, on a refinery turnaround at the Marathon Galveston Bay complex. 631,000 barrels a day. You fit a 6-inch spool to a header on a hotline tie-in, and the journeyman foreman walks the spool, runs the high-low gauge along the bevel, and says, "Do it again." You do it again. He walks it again. He nods. The fitter who tagged in behind you welds it out. The inspector jeeps it. The hydro holds at 1.5 times the maximum allowable working pressure, and the line goes back in service Sunday morning. Your stamp is on the weld map. You buy a steak Sunday night. The 5th-year card comes in a cracked vinyl sleeve. You don't frame it. You put it in your wallet behind the Home Depot receipt from when you were 16. Level 4. The Journeyman. You're 24, and the fork at the end of the apprenticeship is a real fork. Track A is industrial and construction. Refinery turnarounds at ExxonMobil Baytown's $588,000 barrel-a-day complex. Hyperscale data centers in Loudoun County. Semiconductor fabs at the TSMC Arizona site, where the cleanroom holds 71 degrees at 42% humidity and the particle count stays below 10. Track B is Pipeliner's Local 798 out of Tulsa. Cross-country mainline welding on jobs like the Mountain Valley Pipeline. 303 miles of 42-inch. $7.85 billion total, mechanically complete in June 2024. You pick Track A first. The base wage at Local 597 hits $58.50 an hour, plus $41.55 in fringe, $100 an hour all in. You buy a Ford F-150. You buy a Lincoln Excalibur tube and a Miller Trailblazer for the side work. 2 years in, your buddy from the apprenticeship goes $798. He sends a photo from a bell hole in Arkansas, mud to his shins, a Lincoln SA200 Pipeliner, the red-face classic, humming in the bed of his rig truck. The 798 test in Tulsa is a 610 downhill route on a fixed pipe. The fee is $250. Fail twice and you're benched until you requalify on a bell hole in the field. He passes on the first attempt. The per diem is $165 a day under the National Pipeline Agreement. On a 610 spread, he clears about $4,900 a week take-home, $30,000 a month gross on a full season. You think about it. You don't take it. You stay in Chicago because your wife is in residency at Northwestern, and the fab work in Phoenix doesn't fit either of your calendars. Track A makes its own case. By 28, you're running a 4-man crew on a hospital MEP job. 12 floors of medical gas, chilled water, condensate. You fit a 6-inch chilled water main into a 16 by 20 mechanical room, with 3 other trades stacked above you on a Friday afternoon, and the electrician asks you to move your spool 4 inches west to clear his bus duct. You move it, he buys you coffee Monday. Matt Ingram, a third-generation 798 journeyman welder initiated in 1997 and now recording secretary of a local, says in a local history piece, "Being raised in a pipeline family, this work isn't just a career, it's a way of life. You read it sitting in your truck at lunch. You think about the fork at the end of the apprenticeship and how it was always going to be both. You stop apologizing when a job runs late." Level 5. The foreman. You're 35. Sunday night. The company hotel in Pasadena, Texas, 4 miles from the ExxonMobil Baytown gate, and your phone is on the bedside table with 2 alarms set. 5:30 Monday morning. You're in the laydown yard with 50 fitters and 20 welders in a half circle around the tailboard. You read the hot work permit out loud. The gas tester reads the LEL. The JSA carbons get signed and torn off. You break the crew into pipe gang, fit up, and welders. The local 597 foreman wage is $61.50 an hour base, general foreman $63.50, superintendent $65.50. Your foreman. You read isometric drawings on the iPad in Bluebeam Review. You redline the as-built, where the structural steel didn't land where the model said it would. You call the hall for 20 more A-card fitters and 6 combo welders by Wednesday. The hall sends them by Wednesday. On a job report write-up from a local 798 Blue Light, the field secretary thanks welder foreman Derek Strong of Precision Pipeline working a job in Beatrice, Nebraska. That's the layer of acknowledgement you're now inside. Samuel Wilson, a superintendent at B&G Pipeline out of Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, ran 55,000 feet of 12-inch for Dominion Energy. You read it in the Union Hall. You think that's 106 days if the weather holds. Rich Manley, the training director at UA Local 189 in Columbus, rolled out 3 orbital welding machines in the Union School after the International invested $1 million in his curriculum for the Intel Ohio 1 fab. "I'm ahead of the curve, I do not sit on my hands." That sentence ends up on a sticky note on your laptop. Sean Mulrooney at Comfort Systems USA tells Facilities Dive, in a typical commercial office building, MEP is about 20%. In a data center, it's 60 to 70%. You read it on the plane back to Chicago and underline it on the napkin. 60 to 70% of a $200 million data center build is your trade. Someone is going to own that flow. You start parking around the corner from the office. The next data center hits the books at $40 million for mechanical alone. You bid it against 3 other contractors. You don't sleep the night before the award, you win it. The yard sign goes up Tuesday. The foreman's clipboard is on the dash of your truck, and the IFC ISO is taped to the passenger seat. The room you couldn't enter on day 1 of the apprenticeship is the room you walk into every morning. Level 6. The owner. You're 52. You picked up your daughter from school in a clean F250 because the shop truck is at the dealer for the second clutch in 18 months, and you can afford to let it sit. The yard sign on the new Northern Virginia data center package says Acme Mechanical UA signatory in white vinyl on a blue field. You have a CFO. You sponsor your own apprenticeship class through the JATC. You sit on the ENR Top 600 list, 62nd on specialty contractors. The plaque is in the conference room above the coffee maker. Then a banker calls. He represents Comfort Systems USA, ticker FIX on the New York Stock Exchange, $7 billion in 2024 revenue, $235 million in cash spent on acquisitions that year alone. He asks if you'd take a meeting in Houston. You take the meeting. The headline named Deal in the Trade. Summit Industrial Construction of Houston, founded in 1996 by a man named W. Jeff Johnson, doing process piping and modular pipe rack work on U.S. semiconductor fabs, sold to Comfort Systems on February 1, 2024 for approximately $360 million. $360 million. The CEO Brian Lane said in the 8K, Summit is a 100% industrial contractor with the capacity to execute large-scale modular programs. Johnson said in the press release, "The Stevens Group has been a wonderful and patient partner the last 12 years. That's the language of a man signing a piece of paper." The same day, Comfort Systems closed J&S Mechanical Contractors of West Jordan, Utah, founded in 1976 by Jack Jensen, doing hospital medical gas and data center HVAC for about $120 million. Jensen said, "We are happy to embark on this new stage in our development." Pioneer Power of Woodbury, Minnesota, ESOP-owned, founded 1947, sold to Limbach Holdings on July 1, 2025 for $66.1 million. Kent Island Mechanical of Laurel, Maryland, sold to Limbach for $15 million in September 2024, and the founder Mark Bowen retired at closing. The banker shows you a comp sheet with all of them on one page. You read it twice. You stop saving the pay stubs. Level 7. The sale. You're 58. The diligence is 9 months. Quality of earnings, weld map audits, OSHA 300 logs, backlog reconciliation, customer concentration analysis. The acquirer wires a holdback into escrow, and you sign the purchase agreement in a conference room on the 42nd floor of a Houston tower, with 3 lawyers and a CFO who used to be your bookkeeper. The Mont Blanc pen is theirs. The signature is yours. The number isn't 360 million, but it's enough that the second decimal place doesn't matter to you anymore. The wire hits Tuesday. You drive to the yard Wednesday morning and the door magnets come off the F-250 in the parking lot. Peeled back slowly, the adhesive leaving a faint outline you can still see in the right light. The Acme mechanical sign comes off the gate the same week. The crews stay, the contracts stay. The book of business goes on to the acquirer's quarterly earnings call as a one-line item. Closed the bolt-on in the quarter, accretive in year 1. You stay on for the 2-year earnout. Then you don't. The AGC's 2025 workforce survey reports 92% of contractors can't fill open positions, and 78% specifically can't fill pipefitter and welder roles. The ABC says the industry needs 349,000 new workers in 2026. You hire one of them, a 19-year-old kid out of the JATC, first-year apprentice, $23.40 an hour, and you put him on your old foreman's crew on the new data center package the acquirer just won. His broom is yours from 28 years ago. He doesn't know that. He doesn't need to. The Bureau of Labor Statistics counts 504,500 plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters in 2024. The median wage is $62,970 a year. The top decile clears $105,150. Those numbers average a residential service plumber with a 798 rig welder pulling $30,000 a month on a 610 spread in Arkansas, and the average is the lie. The trade isn't one career, it's a fork. The fork happens at level 3, when the apprentice picks his local, and every level after that is a consequence of which way he turned. You turn toward the industrial side, and then toward the office, and then toward the door. The kid in the apprenticeship class you sponsor is bending his first piece of half-inch copper in the school bay tonight. He'll burn through a roll of solder before he gets the bead to chase. He'll smell the flux on his shirt for 2 days. The neighbor's kid couldn't get his shutoff valve closed last Saturday, and his dad paid a roto-rooter van $450 to come out and replace it. The same $8.67 SharkBite coupling that sat on the workbench when you were 16 is sitting on the end cap at the Home Depot 4 miles from your old shop, in the same yellow and blue blister pack, at the same price. The 40-year climb fit between those 2 numbers, and the climb was the point. The wrench is on the pegboard, above your workbench at home. Your dad's, still, yours also. The keys to the F-250 are on the hook by the door, and they're yours, free and clear.